Hi, my name is Alicia, and I am the Wellness Manager for Western Health Advantage, and I am recording this webinar for you today to share with you some of my knowledge on how to change our eating behaviors. Can be quite a challenge for many of us because I'm a foodie, just like most of us out there, and I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know today, but I might be able to share some tips with you on how to make better choices when you're faced with different things that might be put in front of you. So before I get into that, I just want to share a little bit about myself. I have worked in wellness and fitness and health for 26 years now. I started as a fitness trainer, personal trainer, and group fitness instructor. I owned a wellness studio for some time, and about 10 years ago, I moved into corporate health and wellness, and I've worked as a health educator, and then currently I'm in my role at Western Health Advantage of the Wellness Manager, where I still do a lot of health educating and outreach, which I really enjoy, and now learning the virtual environment and how to get the information out to more people. So my bachelor's degree is actually from Sacramento State, and that was in nutrition and exercise science. And I also have a graduate degree in health psychology. I have found through my own journey that, how we think and how we react and how we process information has a lot to do with our habits and learning how to change the negative habits and putting them in a more positive light. So I hope to share with you today the things that I've learned. I myself am not perfect, and I'm having to put these concepts to the test often, but we'll go ahead and get started on changing eating behavior for good. So our objectives today are going to be to go over your top 10 tips for healthy eating. Of course, there are going to be more than 10 tips, but I'm going over my top 10. Then with each tip that we talk about or that I talk about, I'm going to have you rate your behavior from a 0 to 10. 0 is basically you never do that behavior. You don't do that ever, 0%. 10 is I do that all the time. I'm good at that. I do that 100% of the time. And then anywhere in between. So a 5 would be 50%. 7 would be 70% of the time. Then what I'll have you do, and this will be after you're done watching the webinar and you have your SMART Goals worksheet in front of you, I'm going to have you just kind of analyze your results. You'll look at all of the different numbers and you'll see where you scored lowest. And maybe you'll just pick 1 or 2 of those lower scored behaviors, and you can plug them into the SMART Goals worksheet, which you can either get from me at a.lowe@westernhealth.com or that you possibly received when you received this webinar. But that SMART Goals worksheet will help you to really prioritize what to be working on right now. And you may not even be ready to be working on the things that you scored lowest in, but at least you will be able to see and decide where you feel that you might be ready and set some goals from there. So a nice meme that I think is kind of funny, I really regret eating healthy today, said no one ever. Isn't that so true? So we definitely say when we regret eating too much, or I regret eating that donut, or I regret having, that whole pint of ice cream or carton of ice cream. But rarely do we ever say, I really regret eating healthy today, because generally when we eat healthy, we feel pretty good and our energy stays pretty high. So the first tip of the day, of the morning, is always to eat breakfast. We've been hearing that forever. We know that. Some of us are breakfast eaters, some of us are not. I would recommend for those of us who are not breakfast eaters to try to have a little something, maybe a little bit of protein, maybe even just a small piece of fruit, just a little something that will get your metabolism going for the day. So, breakfast, the name itself is break fast. So when we sleep at night, we are actually in a fasting state. Sometimes we have to fast before we go do our lab work. That means not eating for an extended period of time. So break fast or breakfast is something that helps us jumpstart our metabolism for the day. It helps us to get going. So when we wake up in the morning, our metabolism is actually at the lowest point that it's going to be all day long. And kind of like a machine or a car, once you give it the fuel that it needs, then it's going to start working and burning calories for you. So also, making sure to eat breakfast, you're going to be less likely to overeat at lunch or choose things that you might not have chosen if you hadn't been as ravenous. I generally say within an hour or two of waking. Most of us are coffee drinkers. I'm a coffee drinker. But if you know that you're someone who generally is, cup after cup after cup, that could be contributing to suppressing your appetite. So you might want to cut back on the coffee a little bit so that you have a little bit more of an appetite for breakfast. So coffee doesn't have any calories in it. And although it will get your metabolism going somewhat because it helps to wake you up and get you moving around, it doesn't necessarily get your digestion moving, and that's what helps to burn a lot of calories throughout the day as well. So you want to try to balance your coffee with your I'm going to go back one slide previous. You want to try to balance your coffee with your food that you have during the day. So what I want you to do right now, either on your SMART Goals worksheet or you can make a small little note off to the side, is I'd like you to rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 of how often do you eat breakfast. It doesn't matter what kind of a breakfast you eat. We're not talking about what you're eating. I just want to know, how often are you eating breakfast? If you never eat breakfast, if you never eat before, 11 or 12, then give yourself a 0. If you eat breakfast every morning of your life, then give yourself a 10. If it's kind of hit or miss, 3 days a week or 7 out of 10 days, give yourself that number that will give you a ranking on how well you are, how good you do at eating breakfast. All right. Tip number 2, eating at least 3 meals a day. So this goes along with eating breakfast. Because we want to keep our metabolism going during the day. Just like a car, again, it needs constant fuel for energy. So if we're giving ourselves those meals throughout the day, it keeps our metabolism running higher than if we go long periods of time between eating. Because again, when we go a long period of time, that's a fast. Anytime we start to fast, whether we're sleeping or awake, our metabolism starts to drop over time. So by not skipping meals and making sure that you're eating at least your 3 meals a day, you're going to keep your metabolism high. As I was saying, skipping meals, it slows our metabolism. It might cause us to overeat at our next meal, and it can lead to increased fat storage because our body goes into that, you might have heard of that, kind of like a scarcity mode, like I don't know when I'm going to get fed again, so I'm going to hold on to these calories, unless I know that I can release them for energy. I also say to try to eat around the same time every day. Our bodies can really be kind of well-oiled machines, and it will start to expect pretty much the same thing at the same time. It doesn't have to be the exact moment, but if you can, every 3 to 4 hours, maybe you're a grazer. Maybe you eat more than 3 meals a day, but you have, 4 to 6 and you've got snacks in between and you're just kind of breaking up your calories. That's fine too. Just make sure you're doing it around the same time each day. People ask me often, is it better to eat 3 meals? Is it better to eat, 6 meals? It's really whatever works for you. As long as you are doing your 3 meals a day, that's going to keep your metabolism running at its peak. I do say to try to eat the bulk of our calories earlier in the day. In our culture, we are running all day and we're working. And by the time we get home, that's when we want to sit down with our family, and that's when we end up eating most of our calories. But if you think about it, we really don't need to eat late at night because we're just getting ready to go to sleep. We don't need to eat much. You want to still have a small meal, but you really want more of your breakfast or your lunch to be your larger calorie meals, and then start to wean down toward the end of the day so that you can decrease the risk of calorie storage, which is basically fat storage while you're sleeping. So for tip number 2, I want you to go ahead and rate yourself on eating 3 meals a day. If you eat at least 3 meals a day every day, give yourself a 10. If you eat at least 3 meals a day half of the time, give yourself a 5. If you never eat 3 meals a day, if you're a 1 meal a day, or if you eat less than 3 meals a day, almost every day or every day, give yourself a 0 or a 1. And then, of course, as I was talking about eating the 3 meals a day, making sure that you're also incorporating your healthy snacks, hopefully some fruits and veggies. And we'll get to that in a moment. Oh, here it is. So tip number 3, eating your fruits and veggies. So the guidelines for many years has been 5 servings a day. That's getting increased up to 8 servings a day now. So that's a mixture of both fruits and vegetables. The studies are just showing, they just have shown for a long time, that those who eat fruits and vegetables, plant-based diet for the majority of their calories in a day have less disease, less obesity, less cancer risk, and they live longer. So why is that? So why are fruits and vegetables so important? Well, number 1, they're low in calorie and they're high in fiber. So you can eat a lot more volume of fruits and vegetables, you get fuller faster, and you're not going to have the same fat storage effect as you would if you were just eating something that was processed. Fiber gives us that feeling of fullness. It reduces our hunger, so that's really important for us as well, because it will help to eliminate cravings and also helps to control our blood sugar, which is really important. Also, all of those colors that you see in that picture there, those are all different vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. These are all of the disease-fighting and cancer-fighting things that we need to be putting into our body so that we can live a long and healthy, hopefully disease-free life. So, of course, antioxidants, they reduce the risk of chronic disease and some cancers, and definitely promotes healthy aging. And not just internal aging. Having fruits and vegetables also promotes external aging. So things like, skin, if you wanted to talk about wrinkles or you want to talk about, healthy looking skin, fruits and vegetables definitely help with that as well. There are also phytonutrients and trace minerals that just are really essential to our bodies, and we just don't get them any other way than from fruits and vegetables, as well as there are probably some trace minerals and other nutrients that they haven't even found yet that are compounds inside of these, inside of the produce that we're getting that are super healthy for us, but they wouldn't know how to recreate that. And supplements don't count. So many people will ask me, well, can I just take, vitamins and minerals in order to get that? I don't really like fruits and vegetables. Well, you can definitely take them. And I actually would recommend taking some sort of a 1-a-day vitamin. You can ask your doctor what they think would be best for you. But you take it as a supplement to an already healthy diet, right? So just in case you don't reach your max of fruits and veggies that day, or just in case the assimilation or absorption of those fruits and vegetables don't really happen in your body that well because maybe it was a older piece of produce, or it had already started to break down in some way, or even cooked produce sometimes doesn't have the same amount of nutrients as fresh or raw. So we want to stay away from the stay away from the supplements as the main source and rely more on the fruits and vegetables and just take the supplement in place. And like I said, not in place, take the supplement as a supplement. And like I said, there are probably many disease-fighting capabilities in fruits and vegetables that we don't even know about yet. So by making sure you eat them, you're going to be getting those. So let's go ahead and rate you on that. So eating fruits and veggies. So let's just say 5 servings a day, because I don't know that any of us, myself included, have really accepted that it's now 8 servings a day. I'm still trying to get to 5. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how many fruits and vegetables a day? But on a scale of 0 to 10, 5 servings a day. Do you do 5 servings every day? You'd give yourself a 10. Do you do 3 servings every day? Maybe 1 serving a day? So you'll rate yourself accordingly. And each day is a little different. Some days you might be doing really good and other days might not be so good. But kind of guesstimate, on average, how well do you think you do at getting 5 servings a day? And then give yourself that rating 0 to 10. All right. Tip number 4, practicing portion control. So that plate over there, that's a 9-inch diameter plate. So this is called the plate method. So if you have a meal that you separate out like this with your starch, veggies, and your protein, then you can definitely use this to help you with portion control. So imaginary line down the center, you have your vegetables on one side. Another imaginary line will give you 2 quarters. You have the half on one side, 2 quarters on the other. So the other quarter would be where your protein fits, and the other quarter is where your starch fits. So that would be about the size of a healthy meal where you're getting mostly vegetables. That's probably about 2 servings right there. With a protein about the size of a deck of cards and a starch, maybe, the size of a tennis ball, which these are other methods as well. You can measure and weigh your food. If you read food labels, then you can see how much is a serving. You can measure and weigh, making sure, like with your protein, are you really only getting 4 to 6 ounces, or is this 16 ounces? Comparing to objects, like I said, protein is basically like the size of your palm, not your fingers, but just the palm, or the size of a deck of cards. A starch would be like your potato or your rice or some pasta. That would be, maybe a half a cup. It all depends on what you're eating, and you can read food labels, or you can even Google, on the internet for that information. But, just like a small handful. And then the other half of your plate, that's where you're going to put your veggies, your salad, your fruit, whatever you might be eating. And then, of course, with portion control, 1 serving, it's easy to make a plate like that, but it's also easy to go for a second plate like that, right? So really trying to practice just 1 serving, and that's all we need. And a lot of times it's just about getting up and just moving away from the table and being done, not doing family style where you have all the food on the dinner table where everyone is, just kind of reaching in and taking seconds and thirds. So maybe leave everything up on the counter. You serve yourself once, you sit down, and when you're done eating, you get up and do something different. And of course, using smaller plates and bowls, that's almost kind of like a mind trick, Of course, when we eat out, the plates are huge. They're just big, they're platters. So just making sure at home that we're definitely using the smaller plates and bowls, just so that we're not loading it up. And we can load those up and not feel as guilty because it's not as big of a plate. So how often do you practice portion control? And this is a little bit harder to score, but if this is a sticking point for you or not. You're either pretty good at portion control or, it's really a challenge for you. So just give yourself a score on, 0 to 10, how well you feel you practice portion control. If you do okay, maybe give yourself an 8. If you don't feel like you do well, most of the week, but then on the weekends you're good, score like a 3. So you can decide where you feel you are in that continuum there. So that's tip number 4. Oh, we have actually, we have more on tip number 4. So hold that thought. Drinking water before a meal, that can help you with feeling full so you don't overeat. Sometimes eating an apple because of the soluble fiber and then drinking some water. This is a good trick before you go out to eat. It's a good trick if you're going to a party, holiday parties. It could be an apple. It could be a small handful of almonds. That will just help you to take the edge off so that you don't overeat when you get to your destination. Also, prepackaged single serving packs. If you already eat packaged foods or, snacks on the go, just make sure you're doing the single serving packs, not taking the whole bag of crackers or the, whole bag of chips or, whatever it may be, just trying to stick to the smaller 100-calorie servings. And then, of course, listen to your body. If physically you are done eating or you are full, then you're done eating. And this is where your mind comes in. This is where, willpower comes in a bit, just listening to your body, eating mindfully, and then, when you're done, just getting up and being done. So scoring yourself right here, 0 to 10, how often you practice these things. And you're probably going to score yourself based on if this is something you want to work on or not. So, all right, moving on, tip number 5. So knowing your calories. So this is really important. It's not something you have to do all the time, but it is good to know how many calories your body needs a day based on your height, your weight, your age, and your activity levels. And there are a lot of apps online that they're free. I mean, you can just go to a website and just plug in all that data, and it will tell you how many calories you need a day. And then you can start to read labels and, weigh, measure your food and figure out how many calories am I consuming a day. How many do I need to maintain the weight that I'm at, and how many would I need if I want to lose weight, or how many do I need if I want to gain weight? And you can start playing with the numbers that way. That's basically how Weight Watchers has worked for many years, only they use points. They've simplified it. So they've assigned points to different foods, and then you are allotted a certain amount of points per day. So this just can be helpful, food journaling and tracking, figuring out, when am I eating, what am I eating, and just really kind of paying attention to the intake of calories and whether you're feeling satisfied, whether you're feeling full, or, you might start to think, well, maybe I could change this or I could substitute that. But it is an eye-opener when you start to track your food, because it makes you really more aware of what you are putting in your body and how much and when. So like I said, there are the free food tracking apps, MyFitnessPal, Lose It, Fitbit. There are so many out there that are free. And then you can always pay a premium fee for upgraded capability, but that's never really needed if you're just trying to figure out your calories. So I definitely recommend doing that. But then also knowing where your calories coming from. Are they coming mostly from fat? Are you eating a lot of carbs? Are you eating a lot of protein? So those apps, like I said, they will do all the calculations for you. So it's really, again, eye-opening to see what your percentages are for those what are called macronutrients, your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. And then also sugar, right? So a lot of our calories in America come from sugar and added sugar. So starting to track what you're eating will show you how much sugar you're actually getting. So let's go ahead and rate yourself. I'm going to go back to that. Rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. Not on whether you're doing all of these things, but do you know how many calories you need a day to maintain your weight? That's all I would want you to score yourself on. So whether you're at a weight that you want to be at right now or not, even if you have a weight loss goal, it doesn't matter. Your weight that you're at right now, do you know how many calories you need each day or that you're consuming each day that is maintaining that weight that you're at? So if you do, give yourself a 10. If you don't, give yourself a 0. If you kind of think you might have an idea, then score yourself somewhere in between. And then I would definitely recommend going to one of those apps, plugging in your height, your weight, your gender, and your activity level, and then it will tell you exactly how many calories you're needing a day or that you're consuming a day. All right, tip number 6, read food labels. Now, of course, if we're eating 8 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, then we probably won't be needing to read many be needing to read many nutrition labels, because they don't come with nutrition labels. But if we want to know the content of our fruits and vegetables, then we can always just look them up online. But generally, when we're having foods that are a little more processed, partially processed, we will get a nutrition facts label from the manufacturer when we buy it in the store. And it's just a good idea to get familiar with it. I have a whole other presentation webinar on just how to read a food label. So I'm not going to go through this right now, but I'm sure everyone who is looking at this is saying, oh yeah, I always look at the calories. Oh, I always look at the sugar. Everybody looks at something different, and that's fine. It's information for you to make more informed decisions with what you're eating. So a couple things I just want to point out with the nutrition label is that we are going to a new version, which is going to be a little bit easier to understand. There's going to be a few changes actually. So you're going to see serving sizes are larger. It's larger font, calories, much larger font. So it's also trying to help people realize that, when it says calories, that's amount per serving. It's not like if this was a box of, say, macaroni and cheese, it's not 230 calories for the box. It's 230 calories per serving. There's 8 servings, so you've got almost 2,000 calories right there. So just trying to make that a little bit more obvious. The fat is going to be nothing's really changing with the fat other than you will always see if it's trans fats, and you'll always see the saturated fat. You may or may not see the mono and the polyunsaturated fats, which are the healthy fats, but you can kind of deduce by those daily values over there whether something is high or low in the good fats based on if it's high or low in the bad fats. So saturated fat and trans fats are the bad fats. So 5%, actually that's really pretty low. 10% total fat is medium, middle of the road. But what that tells you, actually, it's a perfect half. So the saturated fat is 5%. That means the mono and polyunsaturated fats, the healthy ones, are the other 5% that makes up the 10. So that's how you know the ratios there. This is the best change, though, is number 4. They are going to start including how many grams of added sugars are in a product. So right now, total sugars are already there, as you can see in the old one, 1 gram, but it doesn't tell you is that naturally occurring or is that added. So in the new label, you'll be able to see, like this one says 12 grams of sugar, but 10 of those are added sugar, only 2 are naturally occurring. So you can make choices from that. 20% is high. So anything that's, close to 20% or more means it's high in that particular, I don't want to call sugar a nutrient, but that particular compound. That's kind of how you can use that daily value. 5% or less is low. Getting close to 20% or more is really high. The other change you're going to see is with the vitamins. So vitamin A and C in the old nutrition label, we don't really have problems with deficiency in that area anymore, but we are having deficiencies with vitamin D and potassium. So they're going to add those in so that people can be more aware of how much of those things that they're getting. And then the final change is just at the bottom. It just says percent daily value, tells you how much a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to a daily diet. But they're talking about just an average daily diet of about 2,000 calories. And, none of us are average. We're all different heights. We're all different activity levels. We're all different ages. 2,000 calories is not necessarily the bullseye for everybody, but it can be a good middle of the road for most fairly active people. But again, if you go to the apps that I was talking about in the last slide, you'll be able to see how many calories you're consuming a day compared to the 2,000 calorie recommendation. So tip number 6, let's go ahead and rate that from 0 to 10. 0 is I never read a food label. 10 is I always read food labels. Doesn't matter what you read, but if it's something you always look at. Or maybe it's just sometimes, maybe it's 5 or 6, or it's most of the time, 8. So just give yourself a number on how often you're informing yourself on the products you're buying that have nutrition labels. Tip number 7, healthy meals and snacks. So making sure if we're snacking, that they're healthy, and making sure that our meals are healthy. So this is a big one, of course. So nuts are, a great healthy snack. You don't want to overeat them. A serving of nuts is about a quarter cup. Very small handful. You're talking 12, 13, 14 almonds. So it's not very much. Fruit, of course, we want to try to get in the fruits and the veggies. And yeah, even dried fruit counts. You just want to have a smaller portion of dried fruit because it is condensed at that point. So it's easier to eat more of it. So for example, apricots. I love dried apricots. I can probably eat like 20 of them. But if I had 20 apricots in front of me that weren't dried, I probably wouldn't eat them, right? So the calories are the same. So you just want to be careful, again, with dried fruit because it's condensed calories, but it does count. Whole grain crackers are a great healthy snack. And of course, this is not a comprehensive list. These are just ideas. Popcorn without the butter and salt is a great whole grain and a great snack. String cheese is a good on-the-go snack. The low-fat mozzarella. Yogurt is really good. I really like the Greek yogurts. Really good for our gut health and also gives you some protein, and it's kind of sweet, so it kind of can remind you of ice cream. Tuna is a good it's a go-to for me. I just have it at in my desk in my office just in case I'm in one of those situations where I really don't have a lot of time to eat. Then I have a can of tuna or one of those little packages, and I can go mix it up. Somebody's always got some, mustard or salt and pepper or something that I can kind of season it up with, and then I'll get the whole grain crackers out that are also in my desk and just kind of have some crackers and tuna. That's a go-to, like I said, if I'm really busy and I forgot my lunch or, something happened, but it's an easy way to eat healthy and not skip a meal. Breakfast, oatmeals and whole grain cereals with low fat or skim milk. Oatmeal is really good at bringing down cholesterol because of the soluble fiber. So I recommend eating oatmeal. Doesn't matter what kind, steel cut, round cut, instant. You want to probably try to go for more of the stuff that you cook, but instant is fine too, as long as it doesn't have tons of sugar added to it, like some of that yummy Quaker stuff. Natural peanut butters or other nut butters can be a good healthy snack. You can put it on an apple, like you see in the picture there. Hummus. I don't know that I have hummus on this list, but you can see it up in the picture there with some pita and some carrot and celery sticks and trail mixes. You got some dried fruits and nuts and seeds. So it's all, very, very healthy. And then of course you always have to make sure that you have a little bit of chocolate. At least I do. And dark chocolate is best. But I know not everybody likes dark chocolate, but that not only is healthy for you, dark chocolate, but it also gives you a little serotonin boost in your brain. So it's something nice I like to have in the afternoon. So again, this is not a comprehensive list. You might be thinking in your mind, well, I eat this healthy thing and I eat that healthy thing. So think about the healthy things that you eat, the healthy meals and snacks that you eat. And then rate yourself 0 to 10. How often are you incorporating healthy meals and snacks? If you're a real health nut, no pun intended, and you never veer from healthy food, then give yourself a 10. If you go to fast food every day and you get the, most fattening, high caloric thing on the menu, then I would definitely give you a 0. I'm doing the two extremes here, right? But all of us are somewhere in between. Maybe 50% of the time or 60% of the time you're incorporating the healthy meals and snacks. Maybe it's 80% or maybe it's 20. But just be honest with yourself how well, you're basically rating your diet. How well do you feel that you eat on a scale of 0 to 10? 0 being not good and 10 being fabulous. Tip number 8, don't buy it, don't give in, and don't bring it home. Okay, easier said than done, right? So I was just talking about fast food. Now, there are times where it's either skip a meal or have fast food, right? So I will tell you that I occasionally will go to Taco Bell and I will get a chicken soft taco fresco style. It means that they don't put any cheese or any of that sauce on it. So it's just lettuce with a little bit, I think, of pico de gallo and the chicken. And so that will be my go-to. But I generally will not go to a fast food restaurant I have many friends that do that actually will choose the healthiest thing, and that's the best that you can do, and that's great. And most fast food restaurants actually will give the healthy options now. But when I say don't buy it, I mean, don't go to KFC for the bucket of chicken. Unless it's like 4th of July and it's your one cheat, in months, you get the drift. If it's a daily thing, it's probably something that you just want to avoid altogether because it's really easy to get into the habit of just eating fast food. So I say don't give in the second picture there. That's, buffet style, home style, restaurants or, parties. It's really best to avoid them, or prepare yourself for them so that you don't give in when you get there. It's okay to have some, but you don't want to overindulge, right? You don't want to give in and then beat yourself up afterwards. And especially the buffet style restaurants, that's just, you're really just asking for, not feeling well when you leave there. And then finally, the don't bring it home. Sometimes easier said than done with these items, especially if you've got teenagers in the house like I do. It's challenging. They bring it home. They walk across the street to Target, they buy it, and they bring it home. And then I'm tempted. But really trying to find the alternatives to these types of foods. It is junk food, for lack of a better term. And trying to find some alternatives and just trying not to keep it in the house, because sometimes just having it in the house, you'll eat it. But if it wasn't there, you'd probably choose something different. So this one is a little bit different on the scoring. This isn't how well you do tip number 8. You're basically scoring yourself, I would say, on how often you eat junk or overeat junk. We'll say overeat junk. So things that are eating things that are not necessarily nutritious for us, or they supply too many calories. So you're going to rate yourself more. Actually, I have to back that up. So rate yourself more on, give yourself a 10 if you avoid this type of eating completely, right? If it's kind of 50% of the time, then give yourself a 5. If this is your diet, if this is your staple diet all of the time, then give yourself a 0. If it's most of the time, give yourself a 1 or a 2. So you get my drift. So you can see, where you fall in the unhealthy food range. Tip number 9, I got a couple more tips for you. So mindless eating. So this is something that is just so easy, and all of us fall into this trap because we're multitasking all of the time, and there's so much information coming in at us and things we're trying to do and competing priorities. So it is really easy to mindlessly eat. So mindless eating is eating while driving, talking, texting. You can read it, working, watching television. But it's also, it can come out of more of the brain, the loneliness, the anxiety, depression, or even reward. Oh, I got an A on my paper. I'm going to go have some ice cream. Or, it seems like that's what it was instilled in us as kids. We bring our report card home and our parents would take us out to pizza. And I think we still do that for our kids as well. So, eating is definitely a joy in our lives, but we want to try to do it in a mindful way so that we're not distracted and we can actually enjoy it. So if you are going to go have that pizza or you are going to have that ice cream, you're actually enjoying it because you've made a conscious choice to do it. Whereas, trying to eat while you're driving or working, you don't really get to enjoy your food. Now, granted, I'm just as guilty as this. A lot of times I'm having to work and eat at the same time. But when I really have an opportunity, when I'm home with my family or even when we go out to eat, I really do try to focus just on eating and the sensations, all of the physical sensations, the taste, the touch, the smell, and the atmosphere and the environment so that I don't end up overeating. So again, I have another whole webinar on mindful eating, learning how to eat more mindfully. But in this, I'm just giving you the tip, pay attention to your mindless eating. So let's go ahead and score that. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how do you feel you rate yourself on mindless eating? Would you say most of your meals are eaten mindlessly? Or would you say that you're pretty mindful when you eat and you tend to sit down and just focus on doing just that? So again, those are kind of the extremes, but we all fall somewhere probably in between. So pick your number and write that down. And we're going to go over our last tip here, eating out. So I'm recording this webinar in the middle of the COVID quarantine. So obviously none of us are eating out right now, and we wish we were. Takeout, we have been getting some takeout, so that's been nice. But just some things to remember about eating out that can help you to, have healthy choices and to keep your, keep your weight in check and to choose things that are going to be good for you, have the good nutrient quality that we want to have. Again, this isn't a comprehensive list. These are just some things that I've gathered over time from other participants, tricks that they've done, some of the things that I do. And you may have some of your own. So obviously choose your restaurant wisely. You want to make sure wherever you're going has healthy alternatives as well. Like I said earlier, eating an apple or a small handful of nuts and drinking some water will help you to kind of not fill up, but will help you to not be as hungry when you get to where you're going. Sharing a meal is always a great idea because the meals that we get when we eat out are generally for 2 or 3 people anyway, calorie-wise. So, committing with your significant other or your friend, like, hey, let's choose something that we can share. The same kind of concept, asking for a box before the meal comes, and that way when it comes, you can separate it, half and half, and you could take it home for leftovers for the next day, or you can ask them to separate it. Some places will do that. Like, can you just bring me half of it and put the other half in a box, in a bag? Asking for substitution. So instead of the fries, get the salad, or, instead of, the tater tots, maybe get some coleslaw, just something that will just give you a little bit better nutrient quality. This is something I do a lot, ordering from the starters or the appetizer menu, because it'll just be a smaller portion. And a lot of times they have what they have in entrees, they will have smaller portions of. So kind of trying to get used to just eating a little bit smaller, like getting our eyes used to having a smaller plate with a smaller amount of food on it. Also, a la carte versus platters and entrees. This is what I do when we go to Mexican food. Because, a plate of, in 2 enchiladas with the beans and rice, that could be well over 2,000 calories just on that one platter. So generally I'll, order maybe 1 enchilada and just some black beans on the side and just kind of go from there. Now, I'm not saying that you can't ever indulge in these yummy things. Part of what life is all about is enjoying our food. But if this is something that we're doing habitually, then this is where we want to be careful. If we're eating out a lot, that's where we could probably make some changes to help with our behaviors in that area. Salads can always be a good idea, dressings on the sides, and really kind of looking at how big the salad is. A lot of times these restaurants will make really large salads that are very high in calories, so you might want to think about sharing one or halving it and taking the other half home if it will keep, and definitely asking for your dressing on the side. Another tip would be putting your fork down in between bites and taking a drink of water, focusing more on the conversation rather than the food, which that kind of goes against. I was talking about mindful eating, but that's still being mindful. You're mindfully putting your fork down, taking a drink of water, or maybe answering a question that somebody just asked you or telling a story, rather than kind of continuously eating, while you're talking and not really paying attention to the calories you're putting in. Another trick would be eating the lower calorie items first. So you're kind of filling up on the fiber. So probably your veggies, your salad, and then move into the carbs. And, I guess it depends on what you're ordering, but generally maybe the carbs and then the protein last. But that could be switched depending on what you ordered. And then this is actually my go-to, especially if I decided to order something that is not necessarily healthy, but I'm splurging, say, but I know I'm not going to eat it all because it's too big. So say I go to Mexican and I do get the 2 enchiladas with the beans and rice and all of that. I know I'm not going to eat all of it. But I want to have, that flavor because it reminds me of Mexican food when I was a child. So I'll have the bites of everything that I want, but when I start to feel full, I will take my dirty napkin, I will wipe my hands, and I will put it on top of the plate. And if I go back in under that napkin, then there's something wrong. But usually that tells the server that you're done, and they will come into your plate for you. So that's a great trick too. So eating out, this is going to be kind of a different one to score to. So when you eat out on a scale of 0 to 10, how often are you employing some sort of behavior modification, such as any of these, or maybe something that you do on your own? Another one is looking up the menu online before you go. So already knowing what you want when you get there rather than kind of having to hurry and make a decision. And then maybe getting the burger and fries instead of the, salad that you were going to get. So that's another one as well. So scoring yourself 0 to 10 on that. How well you feel you do with making good choices when you eat out. Oh, I did have that on there. Look menu up online prior to arriving. So here's our recap of the 10. Eat breakfast. Eat at least 3 meals a day. Eat your fruits and veggies. 8 servings a day is the new recommendation. Practice portion control. Know your calories. Read food labels. Incorporate healthy snacks. Reduce or eliminate fast, junk, and buffet-style foods. Practice mindful eating. And finally, incorporate healthful tips when eating out. So you should have 10 different numbers there for each of those tips of how well you feel you do, or maybe how challenged you feel you are in doing these things. And so what I would ask you to do is, at a time where you have, a good amount of time, maybe 30 minutes or so, is get out your SMART Goals worksheet. Again, you should have either received this with the webinar, whomever you got this from. If you do not have it, again, you can email me at a.lowe@westernhealth.com. I'll be happy to send it to you. But you can pick now, out of those 10 tips, you can pick 2 things that you really want to start working on and changing. You want to change a habit that we know it's not going to happen overnight, but we want to really focus in our attention on that. And while this presentation is not on SMART Goals, I'm not necessarily going to go over this worksheet right now. It's very self-explanatory. What it's meant to do is give you a tool to now pick those 2 things and go through the SMART acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic times, and start to change some behaviors to make them more positive around your eating. And then you can go back and, from time to time, you can check in with yourself and see how you're doing. And sometimes goals change. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, I reached this quicker than I needed to, or I'm actually really struggling with this, but I'm doing good over here, so maybe I need to focus on this. It's just a nice tool to help kind of get you in the right direction. So I hope that this will be helpful to you. So with that, I just want everyone to know that because you too can own this space of pure accomplishment, that will be your success. So thank you very much again, Alicia Lowe, Wellness Manager on behalf of Western Health Advantage. You have my email if you have any questions or you would like any other resources. I'm happy to get them out to you. And thank you very much for listening to my webinar today. If you would like to get any other resources, you can go to mywa.org/healthyliving. That's our website. And you can get some recipes, information on healthy cooking, different things like that. So with that, thank you very much for being a part of my Changing Eating Behavior for Good webinar. Bye-bye.